about 2 minutes. Michele Brown got a call from me for about 2 minutes ago. And here she is. Not only that, I thought for sure she would have her video off or whatever, but looking lovely as ever. So I clearly owe Michele Brown some lunch, but I'm honored anyways, because Michele Brown is somebody who I look up to in the office, and I'm super happy to get to ask her a bunch of questions and learn about her business some more. Again, Michele, what in the chat bar, I told everybody whenever I do these morning calls, one thing I like to do is I like to ask everybody, if you want, write a few things that you're grateful for in the chat bar. And it's a way for us to all kind of bond and put some positive energy out there and kind of connect with one another. So I'm grateful for Michele Brown. I'm grateful for my family, including my extended family, because everybody's pretty healthy right now, and that's awesome. That's something to be grateful for.
You know, I have a Miracle Morning group that we do within our KW community. I have another Miracle Morning group I participate in at 5 in the morning, and it's universal. It's a universal group that follows Hal Elrod in the Miracle Morning. And
Yeah,
yesterday morning they said gratitude is the gateway drug to abundance.
I
That you
love that.
start your day with gratitude, and it's the gateway to abundance. Yeah. Yep.
So see what we got here. There's some great stuff from everybody. Vanya's got grateful for my mentor, Eileen Rodriguez. Cool. Mary's, I'm grateful for my family's health. Nina says, grateful for my health, family, God, and all the amazing relationships I am blessed to have. Love that. Grateful for the opportunities that come my way daily. That's from Mary King. Andres, thankful for Juan Bustamante. Love that. And Vanya says, grateful for my family and being healthy. Alexandra, grateful to be alive on this call. Grateful for my health and energy. Grateful for my family, friends, community, and my partner. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff, everybody. Anne Marie, hopefully did you go by Anne Marie? Says, grateful for my health and every day. Love that. Amelia, grateful for my friends and family, health, and a great workout this morning. Love that. That's, we talk about Miracle Morning. That's maybe we'll talk about that for a little bit. We'll talk about morning routines, because I know Michele Brown, that you host the Miracle Morning, which is on the calendar, by the way. I have not been there myself, but I'll ask you a little bit about that. And yes, Heather, I'm grateful for Heather. That's from Allegheny. Before we jump in and I start asking Michele a little bit about her business, anybody want to share some wins in the last, since we last spoke? Any wins or victories or things you want to give a shout out to? Anybody else? What do we got? Anybody else want to share this morning? Some gratitude, some victories or anything like that?
Ed, I'd love to share. This is Nina Alexander.
Hey, Nina.
Hey, how are you? So I've got a couple of wins. One specifically I want to talk about. It's from an open house about a month ago now. And I met this gentleman, and he was explaining how he needed to sell his home in Tarzana. He currently had an agent, and was just kind of more saying how he wasn't happy with the current agent. They weren't having really any open houses or showings. Well, he wanted to stay in touch with me because he wanted me to help him find the replacement home. So I did that. I stayed in touch with him. We've had a handful of phone calls, and just recently he told me that his family decided to cancel the listing. They just weren't happy. He said that he had spoke to his mom, his family about me, and that when they're ready to list it again, that they're going to use me. And, that I was not expecting that. I was kind of thinking more in a positive way that it was going to get sold. It's a great home. So it just goes to show that staying in touch, even though I wasn't helping him on the listing side, I was going to help him find the replacement home. Now it's going to be me helping him sell his home eventually. And this was just a few days ago when I talked to him to touch base. So that's just huge on, the power of staying in touch. You never know what's going to come out of it. And it's not about the instant gratification. It's about really building those relationships and coming from a genuine place that people can see that from you, and they're going to remember that.
Yeah. Great stuff. Okay, guys. So let's So Michele, let's start by for those. I don't know if everybody knows you. I know you're a rock star at our office, and on the one of the KW South Bay is blessed to have one of the strongest ALCs I've ever seen, and I've been at 5 different KW offices in my career, and it's really neat when you have a really strong ALC, because you and Gary Nix, I mean, you guys, the core group really has a strong impact on the office. So everyone at KW South Bay knows you, but everybody on this call may not. So let me ask you a couple preliminary questions. How tell us about your career. Where did you start out, and what drew you to real estate to begin with, and what's your journey been like, and how did you start out?
I started out in pediatric nursing. I had a nursing degree, and it was a very long time ago. And my husband was he was an air traffic controller and worked shifts. And when we started having our family in nursing at that time, hospital nursing is what I loved. Being in an office was just not enough activity for me. So in those days, we worked shifts as well. We didn't have the schedules that the healthcare professionals have today. And with babies, it was difficult to find childcare. So I couldn't do the shift work. I couldn't be at the hospital. And a friend of mine, and I kind of grew up with an interest in real estate. There were no realtors in the family, but my mother loved it. We'd go to open houses, we'd go to new construction. This was all in Texas. And so I started my career in real estate 42 years ago in Texas. And I left nursing, got a real estate license. I had a friend that worked for a commercial and property management firm. And I started as an on-site apartment manager. Within 2 years was a supervisor. I think I had 8 or 9 properties in the portfolio I was responsible for. And then I kind of progressed through there to where the other side of the company, the property management side, but the other side of the company was commercial real estate. And so I learned quickly how to position or reposition properties for sale, depending on what the objectives were for our clients, who were the ones who owned the apartment buildings or retail shopping centers. So I loved that part of the business, and adding value, and then helping them decide if there was value to be added or if they needed to sell that asset and move up. And so through the years, I ended up meeting some gentlemen who had properties here. They had properties in Texas that we worked with, and properties here, and they needed some help with that here because there had never been a need for that skill and talent in the Los Angeles area, just because of the value of the properties and the high occupancy rates and all of that. But it was a time where they were experiencing some of what we had always going on in Texas. There's always a certain vacancy ratio and stuff. So I moved here to work with them exclusively. I left that firm and went to work for them and moved out here. And then through that, got very involved in residential real estate too with some clients. And so, and all that time I was a single mom. And then when I made that transition here, that was like 26 years ago. And then 2 years into that, I met a gentleman from the South. He was actually from Louisiana, but raised his family in Texas, who was moving here, being relocated here. Fell in love and decided that I was traveling. I had 15,000 units that I managed, and my territory was from Oxnard over to Tehachapi, down to Victorville, Hesperia, and across through North Orange County and up the coast. So I had 15,000 units that I managed. I was responsible for 220 employees who reported to 5 supervisors, and they were my direct reports, the 5. And then I worked with the property owners to decide what to do with the properties, and then got into residential. And so with meeting Jim then, not wanting to travel so much, that was a big territory and a big job. And I decided to downsize my business and add more residential to it. And my sister was not a realtor. She was a business major in Texas, but she studied business models. And she said to me, oh, sorry, that I needed to look at Keller Williams because they were relaunching the commercial side as well. And so when I first started looking at KW, and I came from a very structured, very corporate business building
Yeah.
background, where there is no culture. It's every man for himself, or woman. And when I started looking at KW, aside from the profit share, the culture, and that brings us back to your ALC. It was the culture that drove me there because I was raised Catholic. I'm not very religious, but I am highly spiritual, and just that God family business and the culture of collaboration with the agents, I just knew that was a place for me. So I joined KW 17 years ago, I think, and never looked back. I love it, and that culture is what drives us through, like our Miracle Morning, building habits. And so my real gratitude is just for, not just for, it is for just the KW platform and how it allows us to grow and encourages to be learning based and to collaborate and to lift everybody up. But you don't find that, in other real estate companies. So
Yeah.
so my transition to downsize my business then led me to wanting to build a team, and here we are. That's my story.
Yeah. I mean, A, it's a pretty remarkable story. And B, so here's one of my favorite questions that I love when people ask of people who are like, super successful, like Michele. At what point, as you're growing, was there a moment that you as you're going along, you're doing your business, when you look around, you're like, wow, I'm really doing good at this? Was there a moment that you remember when you felt like when did you start feeling like, I'm not just the new person trying to fit into the office, or I'm not, just a realtor doing a few deals a year, but you were like, wow,
It was the year that my CPA told me how much I owed in taxes. And I was like, what? That can't be possible. Where is that money? But that was the aha moment that went off.
Yeah.
One of the moments was when I was installed as president of the South Bay Association of Realtors. I had served on that board for about 8 years, and aside from the money side, when my CPA gave me that message, that's when the reality hits you, right? But when you're standing on a stage, in San Diego, I won a Mark of Excellence award several years ago in front of the Apartment Association. There were 3,000 people in the room. And then 14 years ago, when I was installed as president of 8 years ago, I was installed as president of the South Bay Association of Realtors, standing on a stage in a room of 2,500 people that voted you there, and they're your peers, and that really touches your heart when you the magnitude of that hit me in that moment on stage, and rarely am I left speechless. But when I was brought to the mic after the board was installed, and then I was installed as president, and the mayors from all 5 of our South Bay communities were there. Don Kanabe, who's a supervisor, had his people there with proclamations for me, and I had kind of an out of body experience, like I was watching myself do this, and I was like, how did you get here? And this is going to bring me back to the KW culture, Ed, is that what got me there was sharing that culture through my volunteering with the association, and the attitude that, because as president of the association, we speak at every orientation every month when there's all the new agents coming in, and the first thing that I say to them always is, get to know the people sitting next to you and at the table behind you, because they are not your competition. They are your partners to facilitate transactions and to keep the stress away from our clients, right? So realtors we have enough competition with the web and the internet and all of those other platforms that we know too well. We are not each other's competition. We are there to collaborate and facilitate a business transaction. And when I realized that people appreciated that, and that's how I got voted by my peers. There's 4,000 realtors in the South Bay Association of Realtors that voted me as president. That was overwhelming to me, and I hold that close to my heart every day. I really am grateful for that.
Nice. I did not know that about you. And I think that is super cool. I think oftentimes, we complain about the board. We don't like certain decisions they make and all that. And it's really easy to gripe about the board. And yet I think a lot of us take it for granted sometimes, some of the things our boards around the country do for us. And, behind the scenes, the boards are doing a lot of things that keep us running smooth. And when there's a problem, they're oftentimes the fire people who put out the fire. And we never see that. And that's because it's doing its job. So
I encourage everyone to call their board and see what committee is open that they can sit on just for a minute, just to get a taste of that. Because what you just said about the some of the anxieties that we have with our boards, and we're very fortunate in the South Bay. We have one of the best association of realtors in the United States, much less in California. But my dad always said, whenever we'd complain about something like that, my dad always said, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
So if there's, just get involved for a minute. If you hate it, then don't go. But I'm just a firm believer in giving back to our communities, and it's most especially to our industry that serves us so well. I was in my 30s the president of the Irving Apartment Association in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, and that just started my volunteer commitment to our industry and to our trade associations, and it's given me back far more than I've given them.
Super cool. Super cool. All right. So now let me ask you a couple questions that, because I want to dive in a little bit and find out, I want to see if I can dig out some stuff that, you're obviously a super successful agent. I want to see if I can dig out a few things that our group here of 39 people on the call, that some things that they might be able to take that and put it in their business. So I know you host if you're okay, let's talk about kind of your morning process and how you organize your day. Cause I know you host the Miracle Morning, and clearly a fan of Hal Elrod's book, like as I am. By the way, that book changed my life too. But I'd love to dive in more about so what does your schedule look like? I've always been amazed as I went up, as I kind of grew up through the ranks myself, of how you take somebody who's brand new in their first 30 days of real estate, and you take somebody who's crushing it, doing 100 transactions a year. If they're doing it right, their schedules are pretty, the schedule shouldn't change all that much. I mean, there's some administrative stuff that changes, but usually up until noon, that time is pretty, like as Gary describes. So in a perfect day, how do you like to structure your day? How does that look? Like, what does your day look like up until, you wrap up from work?
Yeah, sure. It looks totally different than it did 26 years ago. I can tell you that, because I was the kid that never slept. I was the kid that, when my mom got up in the morning, the kitchen had been painted because I couldn't sleep at night, and I found some paint in the garage and I painted the kitchen because it needed done. I never slept, and then weekends I'd sleep all weekend. I was a good student. It didn't take much for me, fortunately, to be there. I had great parenting. I was the oldest of 6 children, and I didn't have anywhere near the schedule that I have now. Now I wake up following the savers, with the silence and affirmations and visualizations of the Miracle Morning. So I wake up around 4:30, and that's kind of my quiet time to read a little bit of some kind of motivational book, or all the books that our book clubs have that are so good, and all the KW books, just a chapter or a few pages, whatever, to kind of get me going. And so 4:30 to 5:30 is my time.
Yeah.
And that's when I have my 5 o'clock Miracle Morning group that lasts about 20 minutes. I don't facilitate that. I'm part of the group, and I do some meditation and visualization, and I say my prayers, and I meditate, and all of that's been a learning process, how to get all of that done. But that 4:30 to 5:30 is my time. And then in the industry of property management, we have, when a vacancy comes up, what we call a make ready, to get the unit ready to re-rent or to sell. And so the next 30 minutes to 45 minutes is my make ready time. The shower and mascara and hair and all that stuff, while the coffee's brewing and the avocado toast is getting ready. So and then by by 5:30, I'm ready to do some journaling. That's part of my calendar, and part of my business day is to look at that journal, see what's on my calendar for that day, and then journal the gratitudes of what's on my calendar, even if it's something that I'm not looking forward to find something in that to look forward to. And all that takes about 15 or 16 minutes. It sounds real methodical and complicated, and it isn't. It's real easy because my journal is part of my calendar. So it's easy for me to kind of journal throughout the day because I like to write things down, and I love to find gratefulness in things. It keeps me going. And Gary Nixon and I were having that conversation this morning. So by 5:45, I'm ready to my other Miracle Morning group is done, and I do my journaling, and I have my coffee, and I eat my breakfast, a little protein, not a big breakfast, and then I get the yoga mat out, and because I don't like to do my yoga on an empty stomach, so I get my yoga mat out after I've had my caffeine, and I do the exercise part of the. I take yoga 3 nights a week, but in the morning, part of the Miracle Morning Savers is to get the oxygen going and get the energy up, and certainly lifting a few little weights and doing some yoga stretches gets that done. And then I'm dressed and ready to go for my day. So when you called 2 minutes before 7 this morning, I there was nothing else on my calendar, and I'm happy to be here. But then at 7 we do our Miracle Morning call with our Keller Williams tribe, and that we're done by 7:10, 7:12. If people, I see sometimes on my Zoom account in my email that somebody logged in like at 7:20 or 7:30, we are gone by 7:12. We just knock it out. There's anywhere from 2 to 12 of us in that group. Decide what affirmation we need for the day. We make it up, and then we state it boldly, and we're gone by 7:12. And so then I'm ready to to get on with my day. That's when I start checking the email, checking some texts, checking in with my team, and then from 9 until noon is our what we call our business building time, our lead generation time. And that looks like a lot of different things. That looks like a smart plan through command. On Tuesdays, we meet with our team assistant to figure out what those look like for the week and how many new contacts we're putting into command. And then the young lady that was on before, I forgot who it was, who was talking about the relationships and staying in touch. And that's what we do. We don't make a lot of cold calls anymore. People are not answering their phones. We stay in relationship. We do follow up. We call previous clients. We call our sphere. We work on building relationships and reaching out to people to see what they really need from us. Because, a lot of people think that we all drive luxury cars and unlock doors. And they don't really understand the rest of what we do for a living, the real meat of what we do. And so we're always reaching out, saying how we can help. Do you need a roofer? Do you need a plumber? We have a fully vetted list of vendors that we've worked with that can help, attorneys and CPAs and whatever it is. We just find a way to have the conversations, and that's how our mornings look, basically.
Yeah.
And our business, coming back to that calendar, if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. The bold law, if it's not on your schedule, it doesn't exist. Because our business is nothing but moving parts. No one needs more structure in their day than someone who's in the real estate industry. Because things go sideways or start to, and that's our job. Gary Nixon and I were talking about that this morning. Our job is to facilitate the transaction and keep it as stress-free as possible for our clients. And to help them avoid the distractions. If they get overwhelmed and they get afraid and they want to cancel a deal because they need to have knee surgery, one has nothing to do with the other. It's just that they're afraid of where they're going, and it's easy for them to use a health issue to say, I got to put this on a back burner for another time. And our job is to just take that off their plate and keep that train on the track for them, and help them facilitate both of those things at once, because no one knows better how to manage a lot of balls in the air than a real estate agent does, because that's what we do all day. That's truly what we're paid to do is keep the moving parts on the track.
I love
So the
it.
structure to our calendars, I think, really important to us, because as Gary Keller says, if you have to erase it, that 3 hours in the morning, that 9 to noon, that we're relationship building, that we're business building, if we have to erase it, we have to replace it. We
Yeah.
don't get to just erase it for that day and hope the next day we can do twice as much. If you erase it, you replace it, and you do that same 3 hours somewhere else. And my calendar is my accountability person, right? I'm accountable to my team to bring business into them, but I there's no one holding me accountable except them, and they don't always know what that looks like because they're out building their own businesses and working with our clients and stuff. So my calendar is my boss, and that's my accountability partner, and I have to live with that because I'm highly social, and I'm a driver, and so I just think that I can bull on through stuff and bulldoze through things, and I need the structure, I need the calendar.
Yeah. And I know that. So for those of you guys on the call, some of you guys don't know. So my office is like 2 doors down from Michele. And we've got this great long row of offices. And, Simon and I often call it as, millionaire row. And you've got like Gary Nix, Michele Brown, Luis Palacios, Frank Kenny, Wendy Rich Soto. And on any given morning, Monday through Friday, from 9 to noon, they're like setting the example. Like, they're all in their offices making calls, doing lead generation, which is what it's all about, and that's such a great example for everybody in the office. So I thank you for that. And so if you're not, you can do it from home. If some people have to do it from home, I totally understand. But if it, and some people can't lead generate in the mornings because their schedule doesn't allow, they have another job. So you adjust and you do it as best you can. But certainly the best practices that I've seen around is like the rock stars at our agent, like Michele doing it, in the mornings from 9 to noon, making all those calls. So we're wrapping up here. We're almost out of time. Does anybody have a question for Michele that you'd like, that you're like, after hearing her, you're like, oh my God, I'm dying to ask her something. Anybody, any questions that anybody wants to ask Michele? We're blessed to have such a rock star on this morning. So, take advantage of it.
You had a question. Hello.
Yes. Oh,
That's Juan, he was muted.
hey Juan, did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. Juan Bustamante with Keller Williams Baker. So it's not a question, more of a kudos to Michele that it seems like you've been in the business for some time and you continue to work on those daily habits. You didn't say, hey, I figured it out, throw it in the back burner and I got this. So kudos to you to continue to, do those rituals that work for you. So.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Juan. Thank you. And that, again, that comes from the KW culture and from, Gary Keller saying that we are learning based. And I grew up in that kind of a household. My dad always said, you're gonna learn as much from a bad teacher as you learn from a good teacher. If you just respect it's your job to learn, it's not their job to teach you. And so when I was 12 years old, every one of us, and I was the first, but when we turned 12, my dad gave us a copy of Think and Grow Rich and took us to the library to get a library card because that was the only way you could read back in those days. We had 2 sets of encyclopedias in the house, but you couldn't get enough books, and there was no Audible and there was no Kindle, and we went to the library. But on our 12th birthday, he gave us a copy of Think and Grow Rich. My dad always wanted to be an Amway guy. My mother couldn't stand it, so my dad stayed in his accounting position with General Electric. But he did, when he first started in Amway, someone gave him that book, and it was life-changing for him. So then when you get into Gary Keller's organization and the KW platform of being learning-based, that we never know everything. And I'll keep this short because I see a couple of questions, but the light came on through the pandemic is that and there's new agents that are joining our team or that are in our office and say, well, I'm new at this. And I'm like, welcome to a post-COVID real estate, because we are all new at this. It's changing every day. The contracts are changing. The way we do business is changing. We are all new at this. So thanks, Juan. I appreciate you for knowing that.
So it is 8:30, so we got to wrap this up. Michelle, if we had
Alexander has a question real quick.
Thank you so much. So 3 hours of like prospecting sounds daunting to me to just do that for 3 hours. So how do you break that down? Do you say, okay, for 30 minutes, I'm going to follow up with current clients, then I'm going to prospect for sale by owners? Like, how do you break it down?
Yeah, actually, we have a system for that, Alexandra, that's going to take way too long that we have here to give that to you, but I'm happy to give that to
I'd
you.
love to reach out to you. Yeah.
So call me because we do several things, and you know the database. Anyway, call me. My cell phone number is 310-944.
Michelle, if you don't mind, could you put that in the chat bar? 'Cause
Oh,
we
sure. Let me do that.
a couple other
Yeah,
people have
and,
requested
and,
that as
and
well.
don't call me this morning because I'm on my way out the door, but leave me a message if you get my voicemail. I'll put that in there. Sure.
As you do it, for anybody who got here late, let me
Thank
remind
you.
you. So Philip, by the way, was saying, Michelle, that best call this year. And so I am honored that I enjoyed getting to talk to you. Let me remind everybody, if you got here late, I had a speaker that was lined up and they couldn't make it. So I literally called Michelle at 7:50 a.m. for an 8 o'clock call. And she was like, oh yeah, sure. I cannot tell you how wild, that's first of all, it's not cool to do that. So don't do, but I'm in debt to you, and that's not easy to do. And she shows up looking lovely as ever and just knocks it out of the park by just sharing her experience, which is amazing. And there's tons of it.
It's an honor to be here, Ed. I'm glad you called. It's an honor.
So awesome. Yeah, so we'll wrap up there. That was it was an honor to get to learn more about you, Michelle. You're awesome. And yeah, so everybody have a wonderful day. Hopefully this helped inspire you, helped to give you some ideas for your business. And we do it like we always do. We'll be back on Monday at 8 a.m. I'm so impressed with this group. The people who show up here day in, day out, sharing with each other, like you guys are helping each other grow, and you see the results in the people who attend this call regularly. And I love it. Even when I'm not hosting, I love to just sit in and listen to it because there's so much great stuff happening on this call. So thank you to all of you who attend regularly. You guys all inspire me, and we'll wrap it up there. So everybody have a wonderful day. I hope you guys rock it. Hope you guys, hit it out of the park today, push your businesses forward, and we'll see you all on Monday at 8 a.m.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Ed.